On this episode of the Globe Sports Corner, we take a look at the men's and women's basketball team and how their home openers each went. We sit down with the well-known Maple Leaf mascot that everyone knows and loves. We'll talk about the Everence Student Athlete of the Week, and Liliana Herrera will have your Maple Leaf Minute. All that and more on the Globe Sports Corner. From inside the Globe studios on the campus of Goshen College, I'm Ron Burgundy. I'm Joey Paternostro, and welcome to the 5th episode of the 8th season of the Globe Sports Corner. Today's show was lucky enough to fall on Halloween, so you'll see and hear some spooky things during the episode. But don't worry, there's still plenty of Maple Leaf action to cover, so let's dive right in. Let's talk about the full slate of games that happened on Wednesday. We'll start on the pitch with the women's soccer team. They finished their season with a 3-0 loss to the number 21 ranked Spring Arbor Cougars. It was a tough loss for the Leafs as they were held to 0 shots throughout the game. The star of the match was keeper Ina Lopez, who had a career-high 14 saves. Lopez finished with 135 saves this season, good enough for the 7th most in the NAIA. With 172 saves in her career, she's ranked 10th all-time in program history. The Maple Leafs finished the season with a record of 1-11-4, 0-9 in conference. Unfortunately, they were unable to qualify for the Crossroads League tournament. And staying on the pitch, but moving to the men's team, they ended their season with a 4-0 loss to the Spring Arbor Cougars. The Leafs outshot the Cougars 19-17, but were unable to capitalize on offensive opportunities. Gabriel Viao started in goal for the Leafs and made a penalty kick save during the first half. It was the first PK save since Gregor Rammelspacher on September 9th, 2023. The Leafs finished the season with a 6-8-3 record. The men were also unable to make the conference tournament. And moving inside to the volleyball court, the women's volleyball team traveled to Huntington to take on the receiving boat's Huntington Foresters. With a tough matchup on the docket, the Maple Leafs were unable to prevail and lost in 3 straight sets by scores of 25-18, 25-15, and 25-8. Although the Leafs were not able to take home the victory, there was one very positive takeaway. Elena Wolf had 8 digs in the match and became the 6th Goshen player in program history with 1,200 career digs. Wolf is the first to hit the milestone since Missy Makowick did in October of 2012. The Women's Senior Day is this Saturday at 3 p.m. And staying inside but moving to the Ruth Gundon, the men's and women's basketball seasons are officially underway. Last night, the women took on the IU South Bend Titans, and even with a 20-point game from 5th-year senior Kyla Foster, the Leafs weren't able to take home the win. Foster led the way with a career high in points and was followed up by sophomore Carrie Heiler, who had 12 points thanks to 4 made three-pointers. And moving to the men, with a brand new head coach in Dwight Gingrich, the men's team achieved their goal of an opening night win. They were matched up against the Grace Christian Tigers, and the Maple Leafs won by a score of 93-73. The Leafs were led by Kevin Cota with 16 points, Tyrell Hunt with 15, Marcus Northern with 13, and Cameron Williams with 14 points off the bench. The win marked Goshen's first season opening win since 2021 and their largest margin of victory in any game since December of 2022. Coming up after the break, we'll take a look at a more detailed analysis of what went into the season openers for the men's and women's basketball teams last night. All still to come. I'll sit down with beloved mascot Dash the Squirrel. All that and more on the Globe Sports Corner.
Goshen College. Everyone's at home here. Students from around the world and down the street find inspiration and lifelong friends in our unique, supportive community, right here in northern Indiana. Cutting-edge academics, real-world learning, and small, personalized classes make the difference, all surrounded by world-class culture and championship sports. Most importantly, it all leads to a record of amazing outcomes in diverse fields of study. From pre-med to social work, broadcasting to accounting, schedule your campus visit today at goshen.edu/visit.
Inside the Globe studios, this is the Globe Sports Corner. As I've already mentioned quite a bit throughout the show so far, Wednesday was the first game for both the men's and women's basketball teams. With there being a lot of change to both teams this offseason, the preparation for opening night looked a little bit different. Eduardo Alvarez-Barrera has the story.
The season tipped off for both men's and women's basketball on Wednesday, October 29th. After weeks of practice, both teams were ready to hit the hardwood.
A lot of anxiousness amongst the girls, but excited nonetheless.
Good to see everybody be a part of it and get in. Not every time that you can maybe expect to do that, but yeah, there was a lot of anticipation going into the game.
After 4 quarters, the women's team would give a tough battle, but would ultimately fall 78-66 against Indiana University of South Bend.
They got to see, like, you actually need to be physical, like you need to box out, like you need to be intentional about doing the small things.
The men's team would find victory at the end of the night with a final score of 93-73, defeating Grace Christian University. Being the first season opener win since 2021, Coach Gingerich says there is still room for improvement.
Create more opportunities in the primary break, advance the ball ahead and get some easy buckets, a little bit more.
Coach Carver emphasized that the two guards, fifth-year senior Kyla Foster and senior Liliana Knoll, played big roles on the night.
She put 20 points up, 5 assists. She did really well for us. Lily Knoll, she's another one, another senior, stayed over the summer, got some good skill development in. Her and Kyla both stayed over the summer.
Later in the night, Coach Gingerich says Tyrell Hunt, a senior forward, was a big part of the defensive game.
What a steadying presence he is for our team. Brings a lot of maturity. He's so dependable defensively.
During the doubleheader, the stands were packed with Maple Leaf fans cheering on both teams.
It was great to see the students there last night. It was great to see it. We had a nice crowd. That was a good crowd.
Reporting for Globe Sports, I'm Eduardo Alvarez-Barrera.
Eduardo, what a great story. It certainly seems like great things are around the corner for the Maple Leaf basketball teams. We'll take a short break, but don't go anywhere because when we return, I'll sit down with Dash the Squirrel. Stick around. You're watching the Globe Sports Corner. Welcome inside the Globe Studios. This is the Globe Sports Corner. Joining me today is 3-year-old campus mascot Dash the Squirrel. Dash, thank you so much for joining me today. Dash, so you're the first ever official Goshen College mascot. You succeeded Captain Maple Leaf and Dan the Squirrel Wright. How exciting is it to be the official mascot? You debuted on October 7th of 2022. Earlier this month, it was your 3-year-old birthday. It was your anniversary of being the official mascot. What does that milestone mean to you? I mean, you're a fan favorite at all of the events. So, I mean, what's it like for you to attend a game? What does that look like? You strive to create the community, the joy, the pride on campus, in the GC family, right? How do you go about doing that on campus and outside of campus? Lastly, Dash, you were at the home opening game on Wednesday night. You got to see the men's Maple Leaf team come home with a victory. What did it mean to be at that game and see the men come away with the win? Dash, thank you so much for joining me. We're going to take a quick break, but when we return, we'll talk about the Everence Student Athlete of the Week, and Liliana Herrera will run us through the next week of Goshen College athletics with your Maple Leaf Minute. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the Globe Sports Corner. It's that time of the show where we take a look at the Everence Student Athlete of the Week. This week, the honor goes to Duncan Kogi. His time of 24 minutes, 33.4 seconds at the NAIA Great Lakes Challenge last weekend is the fourth fastest time in program history and the fastest ever by a sophomore. The previous record was 24 minutes, 38.6 seconds set by Nelson Kemboy in 2021. Congratulations, Duncan. Now let's get into the upcoming week in Maple Leaf athletics with your Maple Leaf Minute. We'll turn things over to Liliana Herrera.
Thanks, Ron. Anyways, women's basketball hits the road this Saturday as they take on Viterbo University out of Wisconsin. The game tips off at noon in Fort Wayne. Then on Wednesday, November 6th, they head to Williamsburg, Kentucky to face Southeastern University. Tip-off is at 6 p.m. And to wrap up the week, the Leafs face a tough matchup Friday against the 25th ranked University of the Cumberlands. That one also in Williamsburg. Tip-off at 11 a.m. Discipline, determination, beats. That's how you win games. Now over to the men's side. After a huge win Wednesday night over Grace Christian, the Maple Leafs stay home this Saturday, November 1st, to take on the University of Northwestern Ohio. Tip-off is set for 7 p.m. inside Ruth Gunning Gymnasium. Then next Wednesday, November 5th, they hit the road to Defiance, Ohio, to take on Defiance College. That game also starts at 7 p.m. Fact: teams that score more points win more games. Moving to women's volleyball on Saturday, November 1st, they'll host Marian University with first serve at 3 p.m. Then on Wednesday, November 5th, they face off with the 8th-ranked Indiana Wesleyan Wildcats in Marion. Start time is at 7 p.m. And lastly, both the men's and women's cross-country teams head to Marion for the Crossroads League Championships. The men take off at 10 a.m. and the women follow at 11. Good luck to all our runners and to the rest of our Maple Leaf teams competing this upcoming week. That's all for this Halloween Maple Leaf Minute. I'm Dwight Schrute, or as others like to call me, Liliana Herrera, Assistant Sports Reporter. Joey, back to you.
Thanks, Lily. That's going to do it for this week's episode of the Globe Sports Corner. For more Globe content, be sure to check us out on the web at globeradio.org and at YouTube at 91.1 The Globe. Check out our socials on Facebook and Instagram at 91.1 The Globe and Bluesky at globeradio.org. You can also check out the Globe Radio app so you can stream the Globe wherever you go, so you don't miss a beat. We'll be back in 2 weeks for the next episode of the Globe Sports Corner. Shout out to the 4 of us that were here setting up this entire Halloween staff. For the entire Globe staff, Liliana Herrera, Dwight Schrute, my name is Ron Burgundy, Joey Paternostro. Thank you so much for watching.